What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be changing the clutch in my 1.4 liter Jeep Renegade. It's a 6-speed manual. Now this is kind of a one-off video. As most of you guys know, I do e-bikes, but I could not find anything for the Renegade on YouTube. So I want to kind of do my diligence as a YouTuber and put this video out for anybody else who might have to change the clutch out in their Renegade. So let's keep this intro short and sweet and get right to it. Alright guys, so as always there's a million ways for everybody to do something, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to start off here. I'm going to try to keep the sun out of the angles, that way you guys can see alright. But as you can notice, the first thing I did was take the battery out. Simple. Click this for the negative, pop that out, then you'll have to unscrew the positive just like any other normal battery. And then what we need to do is get this stuff out the way, and then we're going to pull up this plastic cover right here. Oh, excuse me. You'll need to unscrew a 12mm nut off of this strap right here. Strap will come off. Get that out of the way. Fortunately, I have already lost my 12mm nut and socket down in the engine bay somewhere. Of course they didn't drop out, so we're already starting off good here. So we'll get rid of this. You can have a little overflow tube. Go ahead and set that down to the side, and then when you get down in here, you're going to notice you have 3 bolts right here. So go ahead and unscrew these, as I already have, and I'll do that off camera. And then next thing you're going to notice is right down here we have a clip holding on the negative cable, another clip holding on a harness, and then as we go over here we have another clip holding on to the positive. This one's kind of a pain in the butt. Let's see if I can get a shot in here. Hopefully you can see that okay. But basically you'll have this square right here and this square right here, and you just need to pry them up, pop them out, get that one going, and then you have a second one down here. But I'll show you. It's basically you just pull this little tab, pop it out, and then from there you can get your positive wire all the way up out of the way, tuck that back in there, and then we come to our second side. Same thing. You're just going to want to pull this tab right here. It's always easier to use a flathead, but pop that one off, and then another one right here, pop that off, and we got our negative out of the way, and we got our harness out of the way. So now all that's left is to get our 3 bolts out, and then we'll pop this tray out. Let's back up real quick. So we do have 2 more. So we have the windshield washer reservoir. This one again has a little tab right here, so pop that, and that will come loose just like so. And then we have another one that is holding that main harness still. That one, just get yourself like a flathead or something, pry it out, and then once you're done with that, you get your bolts, and then this will lift out nice and easy. Okay, now that we have our battery tray out, we have the bracket that the battery tray sits on, and this is going to have, it looks like 2 bolts. One is going to be on the inside of the wheel well, so we'll have to tear apart the wheel well later. And then we have another bolt right here, and this will allow us to get to our transmission mount. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and take off the linkage. Oop. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to first go to this blue linkage. This one happens to be the easiest. This one will just pop right off. Use a little bit of force. Be easy with it, of course. And then way back here, if you can see where my finger is, you're gonna have like a little circular clip, and then on the back side of it you can actually pull it back and then lift up. So I'll see if I can pop this off real quick and show you guys a little bit closer. Alright guys, so here's that clip, and see if you can see this, but it basically just springs back. So you hold the spring back and then you pull it up and it will release. And now we're going to, let me zoom out here, going to be doing our second linkage. Now this one, I could not pop that out and I don't want to risk breaking it. So basically we have this little clip here. You can see that. So we're just going to pop that clip off. And it's very easy, right where my finger's at. You just lift that up and then slide it out. And then this whole linkage will slide right out just like that. And we have that free. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put this clip back onto the pin. That way we don't lose it. Nice and easy. And then same thing right back here. You're going to pull that black part back and then lift it out. I don't have hands in the way, but I'm pulling back and lifting out. And now we have our linkage out of the way. So we'll tuck that back in and then we'll start working on our next. The one thing I did want to point out, if you can see this line right here, on a Fiat, because these motors are actually from Fiats and stuff like that, the Fiat actually, you can unbolt the slave cylinder. This one looks like we're gonna have to pull the hydraulic line and re-bleed it later, which is gonna be a pain in the butt, but we'll save that for later. All right guys, so I'll probably end up missing a few things as I'm doing this because I am learning with you guys. Right where my finger is there and right there, you're gonna have another couple of clips, and same thing, you just pop the tab, pull them up, and that will allow you to get your shift linkage out of the way. And you're just going to want to go through the trans. See, we got another one right here that we're going to want to pop that off. Focus, get that out of the way as well. But yeah, just go over everything, make sure you're getting anything from the top off that you can. So you can see down there we got a sensor of some sort, so we'll pop that off. And if you guys aren't comfortable doing this and you're kind of worried about it, just take pictures as you go along. That way you have reference if you ever need to go back, if you don't know where anything is. But normally once you start putting things back together, everything just kind of falls into place. All right guys, so I think now what I'm going to do is jack up the car, and you can kind of see it behind this, but you can see the bolt end extruding out. So we're gonna need to come up here and we're gonna need to take all this out so we can get to the back there. All right, let me jack this up, probably pull the wheel off, and we'll start doing that. All right guys, hopefully the wind noise isn't too crazy. So I have the front end jacked up and the wheels are coming off. We're going to need to do that regardless to pull the axles later. But for right now, let's go ahead and get that bracket all situated for underneath the battery tray. So what we got here is we have some plastic nuts right here. So it looks like I have 1, 2, and then 3, 4. And then from there, we got a couple of screws that we'll need to take out. A couple on this side right here. And then this whole wheel well should pull out. So let me go ahead and do that real quick and I'll be right back. Wheel well is out. I did forget one screw down here coming up underneath, and then from there I just kind of dislodged it from the studs right here, and then it pulled out pretty easy. But that's going to get us to this bolt right here. So once we go ahead and take that one out, it is a 13 mil by the way. Come back up top, and we should be able to pull our bracket just like so. Now that's going to allow us to get to the transmission mount up top here and make it a lot easier for us. All right guys, cool deal. So from here I'm gonna scratch my head, figure out where to next. We'll probably end up draining the transmission and pulling the axles, so stay tuned. All right, next up we are under the wheel. Right here you can see that we have a inverted hex for the drain plug, so we'll go ahead and grab ourselves a, let's see what size is this, 12 millimeter. We got an inverted hex on a swivel head, half inch extension with a 1/2 inch ratchet, and go ahead and pop that out. Make sure you get your drain pan in there. You might even put, you know, something right here to avoid it splashing on to here. That way it'll miss all that stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera real quick. I'll be back. And as you can see, I succeeded in making a mess, but you should be able to check out your plug, and you can see I do have quite a bit of material in there, but nothing too crazy. Quick review on the Jeep Renegade: don't get one. 60,000 miles and I'm already burning the clutch. I've been driving a stick shift for over 15 years now, so I know it ain't me. But yeah, so let's go ahead and plug that back up now that we got it drained. And what I'm going to be doing is taking all the bolts off of the strut, and we're going to come around here. We're going to unfold that and get the axle nut off. Go ahead and pull all this off and pull our axle. Now this is all-wheel drive, so on the other side it looks like there's a little differential going into the opposite side of the axle right there, which splits off into the rear axle and the front passenger axle. So I'm kind of hoping that just unbolts out and the transmission will pop out, which will save us from pulling the drive line and the other side axle. But I haven't made it that far, so fingers crossed it's nice and easy. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pop all this stuff off and I'll give you a rundown of what I did. First thing I did was undo the 2 bolts for my brake, which is going to be on the back side of the hub. So 2 bolts right there. And then as you can see, I just zip tied it to keep it up out of my way. This, I don't know if this is a wheel speed. I think this might be the tire pressure sensor. Instead of unscrewing it from here, I just popped it off of its little tabs. That way it gave me plenty of length to get it up out of the way. And then we got the 2 bolts that go onto the strut. Now those take a 16 millimeter on one side with a washer behind it, so make sure you don't lose your washers. And then this guy is, it's called a E-socket, I guess. I could show you real quick. So these will also be on the motor mounts or the transmission mounts. So we got an 18 E18, and it's just this stuff right here, kind of like a 6-sided star. But yeah, so anyways, once you got that, you pop this down, then you'll be able to get the axle up and out of the way. And then from there, what I'll do is I'll take a flathead right behind the axle right there and just kind of pop it out. So let's see if I can position myself so I can show you. Come up under here, and then you can see the gap. You can see the gap right up in here. So what I'm just gonna do is just pry it out. Oh, looks like I might have to put the camera down for this one. But yeah, you'll get a good idea. Just go down there, pop it out, and the axle will just come out. Alright guys, sorry I'm not going into too much detail. Like I said, I'm figuring this out myself. So underneath the car right now, what I ended up doing was taking my 2 bolts off for my downpipe. You're going to have 1 bolt right here for this tab. It's going to end up right here. We're going to need to drop this so we can get to these 2 bolts right here. These are going to bolt down to the bottom of the transmission. And then way back here, what we have is this motor mount right here, and the exhaust ends up being super close to where you can't get this bolt out. I'll show you real quick, this bolt right here. So as you can see, it doesn't really work out. So the exhaust hanger is actually right here, and you're gonna have 2 bolts down here. Unbolted those, and basically what I did, I actually don't have the proper size for these, so I'm using a 16 mil wrench, which actually bites just fine. But what I ended up doing was taking a pry bar and just shoving it up under here and pushing this up and over, and was able to get that bolt out just fine. Now if we go up top, you can see I have this one just about backed out, and then we got 2 more up top there that should take care of this mount completely. We'll drop that down, and then we're gonna have a bolt here and a bolt here, and this should take care of the underside of the transmission bolts, but we'll find out. All right guys, we'll be back. It's getting pretty late. A lot of messing around trying to figure out what's what. So if you see this piece from here all the way over, it's almost like a separate differential. So this attaches to the rear axle or the rear drive shaft, and then comes over here and attaches to the passenger side axle. So right here you got one bolt here, one bolt here, and then if you go up top you're gonna have two other bolts. So I went up top and got those bolts out as well, and that should pretty much clear this from the transmission. Now let's see, I'll show you guys real quick. We go on to the other side of the transmission. So this is driver's side, and let's see if we can see that. Let me get in here and comfortable. So right here you see this black bracket. I popped this clip off. I may have broke it, who knows, but there's going to be a trans bolt right here. It's like an 18 millimeter, so it's pretty goofy. So I popped that one out, and then let's go up top. All right, and then we'll go up top here, and let's see if I can get you in there. So here's the black bracket I was just showing you, and then as you can see there's another bolt right there, so you're going to want to pop that one off. And then the very last one, I believe, I have this one loose, just not off yet, but I went down there and was prying on the transmission just to see if it would move, and it looks like it is separating. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it for the night since it's dark out and makes it harder to video. But next up we are going to, first we're gonna put something under the motor itself, because as you can see it's pretty wobbly. It's basically holding on by this mount and the other mount up front, and so we need to prop the motor up so it doesn't move. So we'll get a jack stand and a piece of wood, put it on up under here, and then from there we will go ahead and remove all these bolts here, get this mount off, and then hopefully we can fish this thing off and through the bottom. I'm hoping we don't have to pull the, I don't know, I guess it's called maybe a crash bar, but this bar right here. So it's got two bolts down there, and then we would have to take the front clip off, and then there's 3 bolts up front, and we can remove it. I'm hoping I can fish it through, but we'll find out tomorrow. All right guys, I'll be back. And it's a new day, so let me show you what I got going on. First thing I wanted to mention is, where is it at? So this bracket right here, in the last clip I was talking about how to remove those 2 bolts for that differential slash I don't know, transfer case or whatever, but this bracket is sitting in the way down there. You can see one of the bolts right there. 3 bolts to pop this guy off, and then I was able to, I wouldn't say easily, but get to the bolts. Let's see, it's super hard to see, but if you go back to the last clip, it's the 2 bolts on top of that little diff thingy. So we got rid of that, and so what I kind of figured out is this crash bar that is in the way. There's absolutely no way that this transmission is going to fish over and drop through it. So I'll show you the bar here in just a second, but we have 2 bolts right here, and then we have this little bracket right here with a 10 millimeter. I kind of just shoved that out of the way, and then I was going to remove the front bumper, but they got this thing just absolutely ridiculously bolted on. If you look up here, you can see there's 2 black clips, and then there's 4 rivets holding the bumper to the fender, which is absolutely shit. So what I decided to do, on the Jeep Renegade Sports, at least in America. You get the base model so you don't get fog lights and whatnot. So what I did was pull these two panels out very carefully, just pried them out. And then if you look back there, you can see all the holes. There's 6 bolts holding the crash bar in. It was a huge pain in the butt. So I got my swivel head and a 1/2 inch and my impact. And then I used a 15mm, got those 6 bolts out, and was able to pull the crash bar out. And just to show you it, there's that 2 bolts under the wheel, and then on the back side, let's see, you can see all the bolts you need to pull out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, I believe. Huge pain in the ass, but like I said, I don't think we're getting the tranny out without moving this bar. So we have the engine is being propped up with the jack, and now we are going to slowly drop the motor onto the jack and remove this motor mount here. Like I said in the last clip, I still have one of the bolts on the transmission holding on just in case. So let's get this off, and just be very careful, because once you do that, the motor is only being held on with one mount. So try not to let it twist or move, and we'll get to it. Alrighty, we got the motor mount off. As you can see, everything took the motor mount plate, the actual mount, and then the piece that attaches them both together. If you look down into that divot, see right down there, right above my finger, there's another little bolt. What is it, a 13mm that needs to come out, I believe. If it didn't, I took it out anyways. And then let's see, here's my 12mm bolt that I lost from my battery cover. Another couple things that I did not mention yet is I took the hydraulic line off for the clutch. Pretty easy. You just go to the base of the transmission and you pop this out, pull it out, and you're good to go. And then one more thing is I took that ground strap off as well, so we should be pretty golden now. All right, I'm gonna try to pry this thing out, and if I miss anything, I will come back. All right guys, another quick update. This bracket right here that sits on the transmission right over here, you'll know what I'm talking about. I unscrewed it from the plastic piece right here and got it up, fished over here so it stays out of the way. But the main thing is I did forget a bolt. All right, so if you look up under, see where I can find it. Okay, so right up under the manifold, it's coming off of the you can see that rusty piece right there. If you see that bolt hanging out right there, there's a 18mm nut that you have to get on. I actually had to put a bunch of extensions, and you can see the drill over there, and a swivel head on it, and I fished it all the way over this little transfer case thingy. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but if you're doing it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then I had my girlfriend run the drill while I held it in place, and I was able to get that nut on. To get it back on, I should be able to go up top and fish my hand around to get it back on. But as you can see, it's already starting to come apart. So I just got to wiggle this bad dog apart, and we should have the transmission out. All right, I'll be back. All right guys, that was a huge pain in the ass, but as you can see, the transmission is out. And that was the nut I was talking about in the last clip. That is super hard to get. And then there's going to be another screw right on top of it with a little bracket. So make sure you get these two. You'll have to fish around, figure out a way to get into it, like I said. I just put a bunch of extensions, went to the passenger side tire, fished it over, and had my girlfriend run the drill. This one, I was able to go over the top with a 13mm ratcheting wrench, which was pretty easy. But yeah, guys, it is out. Let's go down in here. So yeah, this is what I was talking about, like its own separate differential, and then so that's gonna make it a huge pain in the ass to put the trans back in, because this bar right here and in between here, there's not much room. You almost have to pull the trans out, twist it like that, then drop it down, if that makes sense. But yeah, finally into the transmission, or into the flex plate. I don't know why I keep calling it flex plate, but yeah, so there's everything you need to see. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take all these bolts out, get the clutch plate off, put the new one back on, and then I'll give you guys a quick rundown on the universal alignment tool, the clutch alignment tool. Show you guys that I printed out, and we'll get this thing back together because I am sick of it. All right, guys, so here we have a universal clutch tool. It's going to come with a couple different sizes where you can pop these out, put it in for different shafts. This happens to be the one that works good for me. So basically, you'll end up putting it through the opposite side here, fishing it through, so you're in the shaft right there, and then you're going to tighten that up so it'll start expanding. Once it expands, it'll grab onto the clutch nice and tight, and then from there we have this second piece where we're going to screw the big cone in. That way it's going to center it perfectly. It's going to be nice and tight, and that way we could slap it on in there, and we know once we put our transmission back on, it's going to line up perfect. So once you get ready to put your clutch in, make sure the riding is going into the pressure plate. That way the side that doesn't have the riding is going to go in towards the motor itself. So just like this, so we have no riding on the inside, but we have riding going towards the pressure plate. So that's gonna work out just fine, and basically you'll have a bunch of these screws. You should have a stud to help align it, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. Should be pretty easy. Make sure you pay attention to how you pull the old one out, that way you know how to put the new one in. All right, guys, clutch is back in. I pretty much have everything bolted back in, motor mounts, all that good stuff. Some advice I would give is, I can't actually record it, but if you go back in here, you got this little bolt right here that goes to your starter, and then there's another bolt back there behind it that has a bracket that holds like a breather tube. Definitely get those in first if you can. It's going to make it a whole lot easier for you. That is, of course, after you hang your transmission. You know, get a couple bolts in. In my experience, transmissions, you'll kind of feel it slide in, but it usually needs some coaxing on the way all the way in. So I usually just put a couple bolts down at the bottom, tighten them in, go to the top, tighten them in until it slowly presses into itself. Now this thing was a huge pain in the ass with that transfer case, whatever you want to call it. So see these two bolts right here, I actually use those to help pull the transmission in, because for some reason these axles are insanely hard to get back in. Even this one, I still don't have this one all the way back in yet. It's just a huge pain in the ass. I don't know why, the C-clip or something, I don't know. But yeah, so I'm not gonna go through, you know, putting it back together. If you followed my advice and you took pictures as you went, all you got to do is just do that in reverse, and you'll get it done. If you're missing a bolt, you messed up somewhere, backtrack. But what I do want to explain real quick is, if you look back here, you can see that little rubber cap right there, that is how you're going to fill your transmission. Now you can do it all sorts of ways. What I'm going to do is get a tube, a long tube, and a funnel, put the tube in the funnel, and then just funnel it all in. So it should be pretty easy. And then the next thing is doing your clutch. So as we can see right up here, this is your bleeder. So it's got the little rubber cap. Pop the cap out, put your hose on, run it to like a cup with some brake fluid into it. As you're bleeding it, make sure you're topping this off so you don't run out. That'll be really bad. But basically, if you look where my thumb is, you can see that shiny piece. You press that down and then it'll click once out. Then you'll have your assistant push the clutch pedal down. It'll squirt out the air, and then you're gonna, as they're holding it down, pop it back in, let them raise up the pedal, and then you're just gonna keep repeating that until you get all of the air out. There is a couple of videos that I did watch with Dodge darts. I'll link one of them down in the description. You guys can check it out. It was very helpful because the motor, all that stuff is the same, how to bleed it, all that good stuff. So I'm mainly making this video to show you guys how to pull this transmission out of the Renegade. It was a huge pain in the ass. I actually cut my finger really bad wrestling the transmission back up in. And but yeah, I mean, we're pretty much there. I got my crash bar put back in, got all my pieces put back in. You know, this took quite a while because there is nothing out there to help you out with the Renegade. So hopefully if you guys use this video, it will shave, I don't even know, maybe 10 hours, because I'm like 18 hours into this. But it was a lot of head scratching. You know, I was taking off pieces just to find out that I couldn't take them off without, you know, drilling rivets or this and that. So just follow what I did, and you know, this could be like an 8-hour job, maybe less. Hardest part, I would say, was pulling the trans out and then getting it back in. But yeah, so I think what I'm gonna do is finish it up, and then as soon as we're all done, as soon as I'm all done, I'll go ahead, start the Jeep up, make sure the wheels spin, and then we'll finish off this video. All right, guys, mission accomplished. She's all back together. Everything's looking good. Took it for a drive. Quick one, pulled first, second, third, and it's holding up great. I think I got a cheap clutch kit, and it came with maybe something that's meant for the Dodge Dart. But the pedal pressure is super light, almost featherweight. So I'm gonna have to get used to that. Hopefully it'll hold still, and it's, you know, it doesn't need that extra pressure. But fuck, I'm so sick of this thing. I'm probably gonna get rid of it anyways. So it feels like a car clutch instead of a truck clutch, if you guys understand what I mean. But yeah, so I did want to go over a couple things. The torque specs for the pressure plates, I believe from the Dodge Dart guys, is 12 pounds or 18 pounds. It was all pretty confusing. I just kind of tightened it. Don't go too crazy. If anything, go like 15 pounds. And then for the trans fluid, I got some red line. I'll put the number in, I'll put the number like right here or something, that way you can order it, but also put a link for it in the description below. So this stuff was like 18-19 bucks a bottle, and apparently this stuff is pretty good. It's what everyone uses instead of spending $40 on a quart of Mopar shit, and you need 2 quarts. Actually, I overfilled it and it was pouring everywhere, and I fucked up my driveway. But yeah, 2 quarts of this stuff, good to go. Obviously I have this YouTube channel, so you know, you guys will know if it's still running, because I use this thing to take all my e-bikes everywhere. But yeah, guys, I think that's it. Like I said, I will put a little bit more of a detailed install and you know, taking the transmission in and out for the Dodge Dart, which is all going to be pretty much the same except for that transfer case thing. But they're the same engine, same transmission, and you get a good idea of how to bleed the brakes. I mean, like I said, I'll put the link for the video down below and you guys can check that out. But hopefully this helps anybody with a Jeep Renegade. Mine's a 2018. I think they go 2016 to 2018 for the 1.4 liter 6-speed manual. But yeah guys, that's gonna do it. This was a hell of a mission. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, check out my other stuff if you want. And until next time, peace.